This show is brought to you by Foco Sports. With over 11,000 licensed items to choose from, and some of the most unique handmade products, you can find all the sports gear you could ask for. Unique bobbleheads, clothing, accessories and much more. From every team, in your favorite sport, they have it all. Check out all of their gear at the link below, or on our pinned tweet on our Twitter account. As well as all our social media platforms. At Chiefs Focus on Twitter, or our official website, www.chiefsfocus.com.
Welcome to the 100-Yard Dash Football Podcast presented by the Chiefs Focus Network, where you talks about the NFL from end zone to end zone and all 100 yards in between. Without further ado, here's you.
Yo, what it do? This is the 100-Yard Dash Football Podcast. My name is you. I am your host. What's happening? And this is a show where I talk about the NFL from end zone to end zone and all 100 yards in between. You can find this show on Google, Stitcher, podcast, all kind. Wherever you find your podcast, you can find this show. But if you're looking on the live stream, you can look on it on on StreamYard. You can look at it on a bunch of other places. I'm forgetting my lines, but it don't matter. It don't matter because we here with Audience of One, aka Mo Horton, better known as my partner, my man. What's going on, brother?
What's going on with you, man? How you doing? Glad to be back.
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm here. I'm
here. I brought you back on because there's Eagles fans all over the place, but you're the one I know personally. You're the one that I know that's been one for a long time before like I got to know you recently in between the Doug Peterson years up to now. So seeing these guys come in and be full circle like this is pretty dope, actually, to me, because I remember 2 years ago, I was actually not trashing it. I don't want to say trashing it, but I didn't understand the move from Sirianni. I understood the move from Doug Peterson, but I didn't understand the move to Sirianni. First, I want to talk about the GMs. Let's do that. Let's talk about the GMs, their aggressiveness and just the nature. Let's talk about the Eagles GM. We know that he is Howie Roseman is selectively aggressive. He's not always aggressive. Like he when he sees something, he'll go after it full time, big time. And what about this team showed him that he should go all in?
I believe it really started at the middle of last year. We started the season off 2-5, and after going 2-5, we discovered our identity. Nick Sirianni was trying to implement a passing offense, an offense that he got from the Chargers under Mike McCoy when he was offensive coordinator there. Some semblance of that under Frank Reich when he was offensive coordinator with the Colts. And but he saw that it wasn't working out. We didn't have the personnel. We had a first-year starting quarterback who was still trying to get his feet wet into a new system. So he leaned on what our strengths were, which was the trenches, running the football. And it got us, we won 7 of our last 10 games, and we made a playoff berth. And I think him seeing that and that having that building block, the quarterback, the receiver, he knew that we were, basically a piece away on offense and a few pieces away on defense. And I think that him seeing that and seeing the adaptability of the coaching staff and the promise that they had and the youth that they had and energy that they had, he felt like this was the year to go all in. He saw that the NFC was on the down slope. All of the quarterbacks going uh, to the AFC, and then boom, it led to what it led to, and here we are at the Super Bowl.
It's very interesting because I look at Sirianni and I look at the move that was made to go get all the guys that y'all got this year.
Mhm.
But I look at the Chiefs who had a totally different approach. Brett Veach got his opportunity to be a GM because Andy and Andy and John Dorsey saw a difference in the way they wanted to do things.
Mhm.
And so if you got Andy Reid versus John Dorsey, this was his first time being a GM, which he was good at his job, but he didn't have any people skills.
Mhm.
So sounded like he called Jeremy Maclin, uh, Eagles legend. Sounded like he called Jeremy Maclin on his honeymoon, told him he wasn't gonna be on the team no more.
Yeah, it's a terrible people person.
Stuff like that. And so with the way Andy Reid runs things, they couldn't coexist as much as we would like to, although he finds talent like none other. Uh, he was he was he might not have been credited with finding Patrick Mahomes, but one thing I know about John Dorsey is he likes to do things his own way. And so if he didn't want to draft Patrick Mahomes, he probably wouldn't have. But Brett Veach is credited with finding Patrick Mahomes and being bullish on getting Patrick Mahomes and so forth and so on. But they finally got the quarterback, and now we're talking about a a team that now has um, a quarterback that's not on his rookie deal anymore. So we weren't able to be as aggressive. In fact, we had to be less aggressive and give away Tyreek Hill for draft picks in order to build the rest of the team up. And so we got a team full of a bunch of young guys on defense, especially. And Andy Reid, he's all about the step. They got to step up. We had the all season, and you're just gonna have to learn to figure out what happened, and you're just gonna have to step up. So I see the GMs, and since Jalen is on his rookie deal and Patrick Mahomes is not, the Eagles were able to be uber aggressive, ultra aggressive
Mhm.
on their getting players like Hassan Reddick, and there's a couple others that like Bradbury from the Giants,
Mhm. C.J. Gardner Johnson.
CJ Slay from Detroit,
Yeah.
uh,
AJ
Dominic
Brown in the trade. Signed him to a
Brown,
$100 million deal.
Sue,
Linval
all those,
Joseph.
yeah, Linval Joseph, especially Linval Joseph. But
Mhm.
you know, when you have a guy on those rookie deals, you're able to do that because there's more money that you have that you're able to play with. When you don't have those guys, you got to draft them. Jalen Watson for us, Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie, uh, George Karlaftis,
I like the kid Joshua Williams that you guys have also.
Joshua Williams, HBCU. I'm gonna say legend at this moment, but
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's two different GMs, very different styles how they had to build this team, but it
Yeah, and to
apparently.
Howie's credit too, he like I was hearing Jerry Jones was saying something earlier in the week about
Oh, here we go with Jerry
he couldn't
Jones,
go
bro.
all in for one season like the Rams and the Eagles, and it's like to Howie's credit, he has set himself up to with draft picks, 2 first-round draft picks in this coming draft in April, including the 10th pick from the Saints, 2 second-round picks in the year after next year's draft, seven
Yes,
picks total in that draft. And if we not most of the guys that we have on offense were homegrown drafted guys. The only
yes,
addition was the only additions were Zach Pascal, which we got him on a minimum deal, and
right.
obviously the AJ Brown trade, where we traded a first and a third for him, still having these 2 first-round picks left over. So, but everybody else on defense, even if we're not able to re-sign everyone on defense, you got N'Kobe Dean in the weights if one of the linebackers doesn't get signed. You got Jordan
Absolutely.
Davis on the defensive line, Milton Williams. You got Hassan Reddick on a 3-year contract. Got Josh Sweat on a two years up on this contract. And then you got two good safeties in either Reed Blankenship or Marcus Epps, and then you just signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So he's still set up pretty well, and he can fill those holes with guys he can't sign with those draft picks coming
And
up.
that's the one thing I like about these two GMs. They didn't handicap themselves for the immediate future. They went all in different ways. They went all in, but they did not handicap their clubs for future success, i.e., exactly what Jerry
Yeah,
Jones
the
said with
Rams.
the
Yeah.
Rams. But hey, and let's go here. Let's go here. I ain't this wasn't a part of it, but there's a bunch of salty people about
Yeah.
with the Jerry Jones movement and then Shady McCoy. Like I just see a lot of saltiness for both clubs against both clubs about the way they ran things. I don't understand it. Like, I guess it's not supposed to happen like it is for both of these teams. You're not supposed to be in a rebuild with Juju uh, being your wide receiver because he, getting rid of Tyreek Hill and getting back picks for him, and then you guys going all in, getting Bradbury from the Giants, who is in your division. Uh, so many things. You're not supposed to win like this, and you see a bunch of salty people dealing with this, like a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's a lot of. I think on both sides, both of our teams, a lot of not only national pundits but players don't want to admit that they were wrong about them. I know it irritated your fan base. Well, a lot of pundits was picking the Raiders to win y'all division this year. Obviously, they thought we would be good with the Eagles would be good with some of the moves we were making, but they was like, but it all depends on if Jalen takes the next step. They didn't believe Jalen would take the next step, and a lot of guys like the Chris Sims of the world, and no disrespect to your fan base, but the Nick Wrights of the world, and guys like that still won't give Jalen his due of being a good quarterback. They just keep holding out and trying to
Yeah.
give around the people around him. Which what quarterback doesn't want talent around him? Like what quarterback doesn't want a good offensive line, good weapons to throw the football to? But it's like for whatever reason, like you see Joe Burrow, the team that y'all has played, he has 3 receivers that could be number ones on anybody's team. But you don't hear
Absolutely.
anybody saying, "Well, Joe Burrow is a product of those players around him," and for some reason they only give that to Jalen instead of just acknowledging that Jalen made a leap forward this year. But yeah, I think it's saltiness on both sides because of the success both teams have made, considering the expectations to start the season. They didn't have either one of our teams really making it this far. So a lot of Bills, so a lot of Rams, so a lot of Buccaneers, so a lot of Raiders, and here we are, the two teams that are standing. And like you said, it's some saltiness from former contract negotiation, former coaching, and so yeah, they're just getting their opportunity to get their shots in, even though we're the last two teams on the biggest stage.
One of the big salty people I see is Christian McCaffrey. And I'm like, bro, you just got to the team. How in the world are you salty? He said he don't
Exactly.
care. He don't care if either of us win. He don't want none of us.
Brandon Ayuk is still saying that they had Brock Purdy, they could have beat us, as if they were gonna. They didn't do a good job protecting either quarterback all game. It's like you need to
Exactly.
take it up with we need to take it up with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan,
That
because
big
y'all was
time
on
on.
y'all third string quarterback going into this game. Y'all had already shown that you can protect too.
Thank
So
you.
yeah,
That
that has
y'all
nothing
big
to do with
time
us.
because they paid Trent. I don't want to call that man Trent Richardson. They paid, I think his name's Trent. But anyway, they paid the left tackle $36 million.
Trent
Trent
Williams, yeah.
Williams. Thank you. Yeah, they
Mhm.
paid him
The dirty player.
yeah, 36 million plus. I'm like, bruh. And then you have to be on your third string quarterback. That
Yeah. And outside of Trent Williams, their offensive line isn't very good, so we was able to expose that, and that's not our fault.
that's it. Now, Sirianni and them boys had the book on the 49ers. So
Like Brock Purdy slipped on the ice cube before the game or something. Like, no, he played. He just
no, bro, he played and they got to him. That's the thing that caused the injury. That's
exactly.
it.
Don't block the second best pass rusher in the league with the backup tight end. Like,
That's crazy. That's ridiculous. Why would you do something like that? But
exactly.
shoot, man, let's move on. This is a new era of football where we're seeing Tom Brady retire. We see Ben Roethlisberger gone. We see Drew Brees gone. It's a new era of football, and it starts with these two young gunslingers, right? And so I just want to talk about that for a second. Like, we see a new era of football. It is obviously changed from the guys that were back there, the pocket passers, the the ones that don't roll out. Those guys are absolutely gone. There's a few of them, the younger kids in the league, but now it's time for these boys to start moving because that's what we see the league going to. What's your thoughts on that?
I think we had the league is the way it is now because of the pocket passer. The league being so catered to passing made it so where like now you have smaller linebackers. Now you have smaller defensive ends because there's not too many teams that are ushering in the power running game. And because you have all that speed on the team, now those pass rushers are able to get to the quarterback a lot faster. So now you need a guy that can move. You can't have guys that are statues anymore. And it's not even so much as a black white thing because you have white athletic quarterbacks now. You have
Absolutely.
the Josh Allens, you have the Joe Burrows, you have to some degree, even though he's not in that tier, Mitchell Trubisky's and Kenny Pickett's and guys like that. The fourth goat. That's a
Don't
plug
do
for a
that.
different show.
Don't do
But
that. Don't.
but yeah, but but you seeing all these guys that are able to move now. And obviously, you see Patrick Mahomes, who is the best quarterback in the game. He's able what he's able to do with his feet and everything. They just find those creative ways to get these guys on the move. But you got to have a quarterback that can move now. The days of the stoic statue quarterback is over. Like
Right.
you still can win from within the pocket, but the best ways to win the game now is having guys that can evade pressure, who can, basically make the football game 11-on-11 football, not
Yeah.
10 versus 11. So now you
Right.
got to account for the quarterback, whether it's in a run game, whether it's extending plays. And that's where the game is going to. And I think it's a beautiful thing because now you have to value all positions, not just, the standard drop back, tall, 6'5", big arm guy. Now you got to, evaluate everybody. And it's forcing coaches more so now instead of the old way where you have to, this is my West Coast offense. This is
Mhm.
my, pro style offense. You fit my offense. Now the coaches are having to build offenses around the talent that they have. And I think that's a great thing because now you're getting to see these guys not only use their strengths early on, but it also gives them time to develop their skills while their strengths are being utilized. I think that's a great thing for the NFL. Now you're seeing a more exciting brand of football.
When we were kids, you used to go out and play two-hand touch or whatever, and somebody had to be all-time quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So, they got the chance to just sit back there for the longest time. And then, that person was taken out of the game with these running quarterbacks, with these scrambling quarterbacks, with these guys that are able to maneuver inside and outside the pocket. It helps to, like you said, not to have a 10 on 11 or an 11 versus 10 football team where the quarterback can't be touched and the quarterback is just there to throw the ball. It makes you account for all 11 people on the field. So with that,
Especially when you have like let's say look at the Bengals issue. The Bengals have been having pretty much a bad offensive line the whole time Joe Burrow has been there. Having a quarterback that's able to have good pocket presence, able to navigate around the pocket and extend the play within the pocket or just get outside the pocket. Even if he doesn't run, he can, he's mobile enough to move around and extend the play, to hit those deeper shots downfield versus you got a statue like quarterback. 9 times out of 10, he's getting sacked, and so it's
right.
good to have a quarterback that can move like that. Like we were saying earlier in the season, you got a guy in Buffalo that they run them Jaheim plays for, and that's why he was able to develop into what he is today. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to move on right now to the head coaches. Head coaches. There's
uh,
history there. There's history there. When Andy Reid, which is one thing we'll come talk to here in a few minutes, but with Andy Reid, um, former Eagles head coach slash GM, whatever he tried to
yeah,
be back in those days.
14 years. Yep.
Yeah, man. With Andy Reid being who he is, he came to Kansas City and he actually let go of Nick Sirianni
Mhm.
in bringing in his own guy to be I think he was the wide receivers coach at the time.
Yeah, he brought in David Culley. Yes.
Yeah, he brought in David Culley, which is good, and it worked out for him. And apparently, and one thing I did not know about Nick Sirianni was that I didn't realize he met his now wife here in Kansas City. Because
Hmm.
if for those that don't know, I'm based out of Kansas City, so um, there's a little bit of history here. There's some history. There's a little bit of extra dip on the chip, as it were, for these coaches. Andy Reid, he don't hold a grudge, and I know Andy Reid is one of those guys who does it pretty much the right way. He tries his best to do it the right way, but there's certain things he wants to do. So he had that right to let go of Nick Sirianni. But we all understand that when somebody lets go of you, it can make you a little salty. And I do think that there is a little bit of saltiness there for Sirianni. It's working out for him and everything, but it's a little bit of saltiness there. But I'm gonna say this: it might have been better for him not to be under Andy Reid, just given now what we see with Eric Bieniemy and all those guys who are starting to now be labeled as, hey, this might have been the Andy Reid success um, versus other ways. It might have taken him longer to be a head coach. Let me hear what you got to say about that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, like you said, it's kind of been like you said, it's been a detriment of Eric Bieniemy because it's kind of hard for him to get a head coaching job because it's like, is it Andy Reid calling the plays or is it Eric Bieniemy? I've seen where if there's a great game plan, the credit goes to Reid. If it's a bad game plan, the blame goes to Bieniemy. So he's might have to make a lateral move in the offseason to probably get some credit for his play calling. So like you
Right.
said, it probably was a better situation. He did say in a press conference the other day that he appreciated how Andy Reid handled the situation, and
Yeah, I did
it
see
kind of
that.
helped him.
That was
Yeah,
during
able
the
to
media days, right?
absolutely, yeah, and they helped him, be able to, when he's getting ready to let coaches go. But you can tell it is a little bit there because a lot of coaches did give him a recommendation to Andy Reid that he was a really good young head coach. But like you said, um, um, the luck favors to prepare, and the best comes from the road that's less traveled. I think the best thing for Nick Sirianni was going to the Chargers and getting that coaching there, being around Philip Rivers and a great quarterback, and also going and getting a great mentor like Frank Reich, who had just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles as our offensive coordinator, and learning the philosophies and everything there. Even though he didn't call any plays there, he was the brains of the operation. He did the play design, he did the game plans, everything else. So I think it all worked out for him, and they learned him how to be a head coach and be the tough guy that he is now. And he's Philly to the core, man. I know a lot of
Absolutely.
people don't like him because of what they consider his antics, the mean mugging on the sideline, the yelling at other coaches and things of that nature. But that's just who he is. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, and it resonates with players. And I think him having that proverbial chip on the shoulder, not only from that but from other hardships that he went through, kind of, it was better for him, and that's why he's here today. Like you said, it's a lot of parallels between the two organizations. We love Andy in Philly, man. He gave us 14 great years, 5 NFC Championship games, including 4 straight, a Super Bowl appearance. Like you said, he was the quasi GM. We had Joe Banner here, but Andy Reid was really the GM. He was a over player personnel.
Yeah.
So he brought everybody in, and even though he's not that in Kansas City, he still does get final say. When Red Beast make a decision, but he doesn't have as much on his plate as he did with us. He was trying to
Right.
be basically Bill Belichick there, and so I think both coaches, had their imprint on there. And like I said, a lot of people think that there's bad blood between us and Reed, and it's not, because it would, you be with someplace, the old saying go, you stay somewhere long enough, you stay long enough to eventually get fired. That's just
Yeah.
the nature of the beast. But the good thing about Andy Reid is I think it was better for him also, because he went to Kansas City and revolutionized himself as a coach. Instead of running that West Coast offense, trying to fit people into the system, he built a system around Alex Smith. Then he built a completely different system around Patrick Mahomes, and now he's reaping the benefits of it, winning the Super Bowl and now being in his third Super Bowl in 4 years.
Now, not only that, with Sirianni, the situation where, like you said, he was able to go through with Frank Reich and all those guys and see exactly how to run an organization, how to run offense and the defense, and how to bring them together. And with Andy Reid, he was able to come here and rectify his past mistakes. When I say that, I'm talking about like letting the GM do their job, letting the player personnel do their job instead of trying to put your hand in everything.
Got whole lot better and clock
Clock
management,
management, man, he got
because
better.
it stings. It stings because one of my favorite things to do around Super Bowl time. It's my favorite thing to do. I get it. They have a day or two every couple of weeks on NFL Network where they show Super Bowl highlights. They'll go from Super Bowl 1 all the way to the most recent Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Super Bowl 39 came on. I was 16 years old, had all the promise in the world. Don't have as much football knowledge as I have now, but I had a lot. And the most painful thing about that Super Bowl was watching us be down 24-14 to the Patriots with 7 minutes to go. We had 80 yards to go for a touchdown. And we eventually got that touchdown, but it was only 2 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, you didn't
And
leave
we
much
still
time
had
out.
3 timeouts.
Yes.
And it's like, no, it was no hurry up, no sense of urgency, kept huddling up. And that stings to this day. Like, what if we would have handled the clock a lot better? We lost that game 24-21. And it's like, what if we would have handled the clock better? Because when we did get the ball back, we only had 40 seconds left with
Yeah.
75 yards to go. And that's damn near impossible. So that
But not
stung
only,
very much, going back to seeing that last weekend. I was watching the Super Bowl highlights, and that stung pretty bad because Brady wasn't Brady yet. And we had a opportunity, and it
yes.
slipped through the cracks. But he's definitely evolved himself as a coach and as a CEO, mentor, play caller, everything. So I think that it was the best thing for both parties involved.
And we see where they're at now. We definitely see where they're at now. But when you talk about that clock management thing, when you talk about clock management, Andy Reid, yeah, he made everybody mad with his clock management during that time. He still has issues with it sometimes. But having a guy like Patrick Mahomes, he's the what they call it, the tide that rises all ships.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really ever get in the hurry up ever, unfortunately. They always take their time during the plays, and then when they have to be in it, like against the Bills in the 13-second game or
Yeah,
whatever.
I love when Mahomes try to hurry the play up. Yes,
Yes,
that
yes,
little old man walking. He's
yes.
hurry up, get the play
Uh,
in. That's the most hilarious thing ever. He
so
is he's the best though.
I think that having a competent guy that like, and I don't want to say Donovan McNabb wasn't competent because he was overcompetent. I mean, he had the resume, he had everything that he needed, but there was still a little bit lacking with Donovan McNabb and everything that he had. And I didn't realize I was a closet Eagles fan until like 2-3 years ago, and because
Mm-hmm.
I was always a huge Andy Reid fan. After probably his third season with the Eagles,
Mm-hmm.
I just drew to the team that he was, the way they drafted. They drafted Jeremy Maclin. They drafted what was it, Shady McCoy? Who
Yeah,
was it?
Shady McCoy, yes.
And there's one other one that I think I can't remember.
Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson, thank you. The
Mm-hmm.
freak, Javon Curse,
Mm-hmm.
picking him up and things of that nature. Like just so many things I remember seeing from the 90s or whatever, or
Yeah,
99,
and the feeling
99,
is mutual on
2000.
this side too. Yeah, I felt the same way about you guys. I was always kind of like respected the way y'all did things. I remember growing up watching Christian Okoye,
Yeah.
watching I was a big running back fan, so watching Priest Holmes, watching Larry Johnson before
But yeah,
um,
yeah,
watching Jamal Charles coming from Texas. I really got locked in on the Chiefs when Dexter. I went to college with Dexter McCluster at Ole Miss,
I
and
got you.
we went to college the same year. So when he went to the Chiefs, I was very locked in on there. And then obviously Andy Reid going there, and there's a lot of parallels between the two organizations. I think that's why we both kind of root for each other, kind of like you said, closetly, because there's a lot of parallels. You know, Jeremy Macklin went from us to you guys. After
Yeah,
Chip Kelly traded him.
yeah,
Y'all wide receiver coach right now was a fourth string wide receiver on our team in the Andy Reid day. Greg Lewis caught a touchdown pass in that drive I was just talking about. He caught the 21-point touchdown
yeah,
pass in the Super Bowl.
absolutely.
Eric Bieniemy last year as a player, as a running back, was with the Eagles in 1999. It
Mhm.
was a bad season for him, and that what made him become a coach now and having those ties to Andy Reid. Now he's on the staff. Brett Beach was an assistant coach under Andy Reid, and then he eventually became a scout, and then
Mhm.
eventually became a assistant over player personnel for the Chiefs, and now he's the GM. So, like I said, there's a lot of parallels with both organizations. Like I said, Jeremy Macklin, Shady McCoy, playing on both teams and of that nature. So, I think the two parallels are so stunning, and we're so connected. It's almost like we're distant brothers.
Right.
From and then having actual brothers on both teams, and Andy Reid drafting both of them,
Yeah.
saying something to both guys. So I think that's where the mutual respect comes in. I've gained a lot of Chiefs friends and followers on social media because of the Andy Reid move, and so I think that's just a testament to Andy Reid and how he established both franchises, and what a great coach, and testament to the man that he is. So I think that's a great thing, and underlining storyline in there. Just Andy Reid is just like a messy couple. Andy Reid with his new thing going up against his old thing. So
Yeah, man. It is what it is on that point front. But I just love the storylines. It's just so many of them too.
mhm.
The coaches, the GMs, the new era of football. Now we moving on. Well, first of all, this of course the show is brought to you by Foco Sports. Check out their complete line of licensed gear, and it's pinned on the tweet for Chiefs Focus. So check that out. But let's move on to the history of the game. We've never seen two black coaches at this stage of the game, the highest stage, the pinnacle of your football career. This is what you play for. This is what you live for. You're not here because you want to see everybody is in their driveway and they imagine throwing that game-winning touchdown, but it's never in the playoffs. When they talk about throwing that game-winning touchdown, it's always in the Super Bowl. And to see two brothers, as it were, black quarterbacks being able to do this, and we've never seen that before. This is now a history. This is history right here. And
Mhm.
so being able to see it is pretty surreal, especially given everything that the black athlete has had to go through in the past and having to prove themselves over and over again, even though they might have been the best on the field already. Even you can see it today. Even people still not giving Patrick Mahomes his flowers. Jalen still having to prove his talent, even though he is a great thrower and he's got great field vision, all that kind of stuff. Like he still has to prove it to some people. And just seeing where we've come from as a nation, as a country, and where we are headed, having these two brothers starting a quarterback at the highest level is amazing to me. Let's hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think that it's big. I know a lot of people are starting to kind of that not necessarily get fatigued by it, but you have your people who are against it. You see the comments on social media. You see
Of course.
people are kind of like, they don't see color and all that type of jazz. But it's like it's a big. People got to understand that this is a big historical moment. There's only 7 black quarterbacks that played in the Super Bowl in the 57-year history of the Super Bowl. You can name them on 2 hands: Doug Williams, Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb, Colin Kaepernick, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. So that lets you know that we these 2 guys went in the game, shows you how far we've come, but it still shows how much more we still have to go. We do have a larger percentage now. I think 11 starting black quarterbacks in the NFL now out of 32 teams, which is pretty good. But you still have to worry about the stereotypes. You still have to worry about Lamar Jackson being lowballed on his contract because of his athleticism. You still have to worry about guys coming out of college being asked to change positions because of their athleticism. Jalen Hurts was asked to play running back at the Senior Bowl not long ago, just 3 years ago. So you still have those people who have reservations, who don't think the black quarterback is intelligent enough to run a functional offense.
Right.
I use Lamar as an example a lot because Lamar ran a pro style offense in college. He ran a functioning NFL offense in college with a coach who had a brief stint in the NFL. He left because the quarterback was dog fighting, but that's neither here nor there. But
Yeah.
but he ran a functioning style pro style offense with a little bit of zone read and read options sprinkled into it. But it was basically he run more college stuff in the NFL than he did in college, and the
Right.
fact that the Ravens was still kind of trying to find a run coordinator. When you got a quarterback who's very, very good at processing information and everything like that, and for him to still have those struggles, and he coming out the draft, be appalling and say he should revert to wide receiver and
Right.
that type of thing. But seeing these 2 guys, in the Super Bowl, and there'll be some parents who will be elated to see it happen. Legends who played the game before, the Michael Vicks, the Donovan McNabbs, the Rodney Peets, the Randall Cunninghams, Doug Williams. Obviously, he's been very emotional about it. And guys, even before that, the Marlon Briscoes, who was the first black quarterback in the NFL with the Denver Broncos, and it might be a little kid out there, a 7-8-year-old kid who wants to play quarterback, and somebody's going to one day tell him, hey, you got to change position, or you're not smart enough. He can remember that, hey, I saw Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. Representation matters. It matters. It helps, gives you dreams. It helps, gives you hopes. It helps give you something to strive for. Seeing somebody like you in a prominent position, especially with the NFL still having racial problems. We're getting better at the GM stuff, but we still only have 3 black coaches in the NFL right now. If you include D'Amico Ryan, Todd Bowles, and Mike Tomlin. And you can say 4 if you include Mike McDaniels, but that's up for debate for some people. But yeah, so we still got a long way to go. But I think that this gives you some type of promise. It gives you some type of hope, and it gives you some type of something to root for outside of the actual, banter of the game. And it still sounds like those 2 guys get along too. So that's a great
Absolutely.
deal.
Yeah. I just think about it, and what 2004, I want to say, was when we were able to experience 2 black head coaches.
That was
In
2007. It was Super Bowl 41. Yeah,
yeah,
41.
um,
Lovie Smith and
Lovie
Tony
Smith,
Dungy.
Tony Dungy, yeah, and to think that was dang near 13 years ago,
Mhm.
13, 14 years ago, and now here we are with these 2 young brothers at the apex of their career. It's amazing to see, but it's also real. It's also surreal to realize, like, we still got a long way to go. Uh, but so it ain't no
And
time to
also, I want
rest.
to put in before we swap subjects. I want to shout out their dads as well. Avery
Yeah,
Hurts,
yes,
Patrick Mahomes. There is a stereotype of black men in general in this country having, not having fathers around, and even though that's the complete opposite, but the minority that it is highlighted more as a stereotype, and to have those fathers being their lives. Jalen Hurts' dad being a high school coach, being his high school coach, and kind of molded him to the man he is today. Patrick Mahomes' dad being a former MLB relief pitcher, having him in locker rooms and teaching him, how to be a professional. I mean, I think it's great, and I've found a newfound affection for Pat Mahomes' dad over the last 2 weeks. After his interview, he reminds me of my uncle
I
so
knew
bad.
it.
Smoking on that Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I'm
I
smoking
bet
on
he's an,
a
I bet he's an immaculate space player. I bet he's great.
I was thinking dominoes too.
Yeah,
Boy,
man. Crown Royal bag full of quarters on the dresser.
I bet you he smacked that domino down the thing, make
Yeah,
the
man.
whole table shake,
Newports and Bud Ice, bro. I'm telling you. I know he listened to Bobby Blue Bland.
Absolutely. Absolutely, boy.
Yeah, man. So that's great to have those two brothers and having their kids in the Super Bowl. That's pretty good.
And you can see it. You can see how much of a difference it can make in a young man's life. But as we moving forward, man, I think now we getting into the nuts and bolts of the game. We got about 20 minutes left. I definitely want to get you out of here within an hour time span, because I know you were working or whatever. But let's get into the QB's health, which is going to play a big deal, play big factors for it. On the opposite side, you got Hassan Reddick, you got guys like Ndamukong Suh, you got who else? Chris Jones, you got George Karlaftis, like literally honing in on you, and your health is not 100%. That could be a daunting situation. That could be a little bit much for a lot of people to handle, because Patrick Mahomes injured his leg. I mean, injured his ankle in the divisional round. Yes, divisional round. Yes, divisional round. And Jalen been dealing with some injuries pretty much for half the season.
Yeah, since I want to say it was week 13.
Yeah, something like that.
Not week 15. I'm sorry, week 15 against the Bears. Yep.
So maybe it wasn't half the season, but it feels like that. And that's another thing with this 20
extra game. Yeah,
extra game. It just feels like so long ago, although it was one extra game. Anyway, with those injuries looming, and those are significant injuries because they hindered these guys from being the guys that we know them to be, the very dynamic quarterback that they are. What is it while they're nursing this injury and trying to, of course, they're playing more games than anybody has ever played, because there's never been anybody to play 17 games and then hit this quarterback, hit this. They're the first ones to go to the Super Bowl with the 20 game or with the 18-week season. All right. Yeah, 18-week season. So they've played more football than anybody, but yet they still have to realize the moment. But moving forward, they still got to go to next season. They still got to be the guys for next season. And yes, it's a long off season, but it ain't that long for real, especially with this 20-week season. So what does this mean for both QBs nursing injuries, but yet still trying to be their dynamic self in the Super Bowl? What do you think it means? What does it mean to you just watching them nurse these injuries?
I think it's a testament to both guys' toughness. Both guys' will and desire to win. They're willing to go through any pain, any injury. I talk about this all the time. How we'll be watching football and you'll see guys who don't show up on the injury report all year, but at the end of the season, you'll see somebody having a labrum surgery or having some kind of arthroscopic surgery or something after the season. Because everybody's banged up at this time of the year. It's just these guys' injuries are obviously more highlighted because of their popularity and obviously them being in the Super Bowl. I think both quarterbacks know how to play within themselves and know how to protect themselves with those injuries. Jalen's injury, I can speak to more. His injury is not going to require any surgery, just rest. But the thing is, he has no time to rest. This bye week helps him to get a little bit more healthier It's been 2 months now. He had a what you would call an SC sprain, which is different than an SC joint, AC joint sprain, because an AC joint sprain you can shoot it up with a little happy medicine. You can put some Toradol in there and you good to go. But an SC joint sprain you can't do that. So, but he's been healthier. He's been doing a better job of he did a great job all season of not getting hit hard. He just had that one game that where the defensive tackle for the Bears landed on him. But he's learned how to fall differently, how to turn his body differently, and how to slide and get out of bounds to avoid those hits. It has messed with his accuracy a little bit than usual, but I think he's working through it, and him having this extra bye week helps a lot. And having a great medical staff and everything getting ready. And as far as Patrick Mahomes, I just think he's just sensational. You know, you hear high ankle sprain, that's 4 to 6 weeks. That's and people think sprain means he just rolled his ankle. That's sometimes they can be legitimate, ligament tears in your ankle.
A 250-pound man fell on that brother's ankle.
Exactly.
While he was in the motion of throwing. Like that's tough to go through. That's tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about fibers and you're talking about possible ligament damage, and you have to either rest or you have to have some type of small, microscopic surgery for it. And so
normally for those, man, that's kind of stuff when it comes to sprains. From my experience, and I used, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to. I was in sports medicine for a little bit, right? And so for 2 years, actually. And for those type of things, and I don't want to speak on it like I'm a professional because I'm not, but I know sprains just take time to heal. You can get surgeries, but sometimes that just belabors the situation. And when you talk about a 20-week season, you only got 50 weeks in a year. Okay. You got 52 weeks in a year. And you talking about a 20-week season, that's almost a third, a little bit more than a third of the season. Of the year. So you got to do whatever it takes. And you still got to go through training camp. You got to go through OTAs. You got to go through all these things that still happen during the year. So it's just one of those things that I think hopefully it'll just take rest and ice, elevation, rest, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, because I could the blessing in disguise was we had Jordan Davis had a high ankle sprain, and that's a 350-pound man.
Defensive tackle out of Georgia, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's it. 6'6", 350. Yeah. That blessing in disguise where he got a high ankle sprain. They sidelined him for 5 weeks. Yeah. He missed 5 games, but that allowed Howard to go acquire Sue and Linval Joseph to take his place. And so that lets you know how serious of an injury that is for a man that size to be out for a month and a couple weeks. Shows you the toughness and the mental toughness and the will to win and the fortitude and what the stuff that Patrick Mahomes is made of, because most guys under those circumstances probably wouldn't still be able to perform the way that he's performing. He's still a very dangerous quarterback. They always saying goes, a wounded animal is still a dangerous animal. He's probably even more dangerous, in that aspect, so the fact that he's able to endure all this and play the way that he's playing, that's a testament to that's him being the best quarterback in the league right now. He's him being the face of the league, and he is a champion. And I say this all the time, and I don't want anybody to take it as disrespect or, I want them to take it as an utmost compliment. I believe if Patrick Mahomes was to retire after this game Sunday, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's that great of a quarterback. So for him to, to go through this pain and noticeable limp on the field and still garner the results that he has, it's a testament to what a great player and a great competitor that he is.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna do a sideline that's gonna lead us right into our last topic. The way how he did his team this year, it makes me wonder why a lot of teams don't do this. But yeah, you got your 53-man roster, but having a rotation of pass rushers is absolutely it's not. I guess you don't. It doesn't have to be key because you want those guys to especially your rookies to be able to evolve and get to the quarterback. But when Jordan Davis went down, he brought in Dominican Sue, and so now he's got like seven defensive linemen to rotate in and out for the head coaches to be able to rotate in and out based upon situational football, which I thought was amazing. And it helps, it lends credence to the fact that we dealing with the top two defenses in the league when it comes to sacks.
Hmm.
The Chiefs have a small, like we have a little roster. I think we got two extra guys that they rotate in situationally.
155 sacks though, which is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. But the next one in line is the Eagles, and they are, I think they're all 15 sacks ahead of us.
Yeah,
15 or
7
more.
sacks of the season. Yep.
Yeah, man. And seeing that these two teams could be so good at rushing the passer. I don't think I saw that coming into the year. I knew Chris Jones was on a contract year. I knew that. And the the late great Therese Paler used to be with Yahoo Sports. He used to say the contract year is undefeated. And
Yes.
Chris Jones in a contract year with David Culley, I mean not David Culley, with Joe Cullen as his coach, man, that man turned into a certified beast. And
Mhm.
so seeing that and also seeing Hassan Reddick just tearing off the edge, just absolutely wrecking the game. Seeing that these are the two top teams in sacks. You got dynamic head coaching, you got dynamic quarterback play, you got great wide receivers. This is probably the most evenly matched Super Bowl I think I've ever seen in my life.
It is.
And I actually got two topics, so we ain't gonna spend too long on this. But what are your thoughts about the fact that these are two dueling defenses that they both got great pass rush, and at the back end, they're you're dealing with on the Eagle side, you're dealing with veterans. On the Chiefs side, as far as your defensive backfield, you're dealing with rookies, absolute rookies. Two different style, two different approaches how they built this team. It's amazing to me the parallel. What are your thoughts on that?
It goes to show that I learned how to watch football. I have a couple football friends who play professional football. They taught me how to watch football and to not ball watch so much. They said you'll find the ball, but watch all. You're missing a whole other 50,000 things that's going on there,
You're missing a
including the
lot.
line play. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that you're missing out on. Pre-snap motion, route concepts, the way cover defenses lined up pre-snap versus what the coverage they show post-snap. But everything still holds true that the um, the game is won and lost in the trenches. I think that's going to be the determining factor in this game. What offensive line can hold up against the other team's defensive line will determine the be determining factor in this game. Like you said, the Eagles having Hassan Reddick, having 1,000-year-old Fletcher Cox, having Javon Hargrave, having Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, um, uh, hey, I lost you there for a second. I can't hear you.